everybody, welcome back to Big Lake Hot Rods. Today, we're still going to be working on the Falcon. So this is I think this is the 80-90% of the build that everybody talks about being the worst. It's just little things that just drive you nuts. So like I said, we'll get the camera turned around and show you what I got going on. So I got all my brake parts laid out on the table here. I'm going to try to do a little powder coating on them and see how they turn out. While I got the calipers blown apart and backing plate, rotors and all that, spindles, everything got cleaned up. I went in through and blasted it all and cleaned all the scale off best I could. It's really more about getting a coating on it so it doesn't rust. It's not show car, but I did grind some of the casting marks off the spindles and just cleaned up the edges of some of the things. All in all, in good shape, and I'm gonna get this flat bar cut out so I can drill some holes in it, and I'll lay my bolts in there. So I just really want to get the bolt head and maybe that upper shoulder a little bit. I don't want to get the threads or anything. I'll just touch those up with some paint and be good to go. So that'll have all the brakes and everything. I got the hoses and fittings and little things of that nature, everything that go along with that. That'll give me front and rear brakes. And the last thing I need to do to make it be able to drive around on its own is get a little cooling system set up. So I got to get some hoses and reroute the lower coolant inlet line on the radiator. So let's get these cleaned up and we'll get them in the oven and we'll start baking some paint on them. Little powder coating action, and we're getting ready to stick them in the oven and bake it on. Let's see how it turns out. I haven't done it in a while, so I'm a little rusty, and these parts are pretty awkward. So let's see. Let's put them in the oven. We'll see. Just pulled this batch of cookies out of the oven, and they just happen to be in the shape of spindles and some bolts. Got the calipers. They're cooling down. They're still a little warm to touch, so I'm not going to put those together yet rather than fumble around and drop them. But backing plate's there. I got the other spindle in place and bolted in, and looks good. Spindle's still a little bit warm, but it's not warm enough that I can't touch it. So, I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. I will get new hubs eventually. These will be fine for now. So that's why I didn't really do anything to that and spend any time cleaning them up. So I'll get new hubs and I'll have to re-drill the spindle there. But other than under here, I'm not going to do too much cleaning because I'm just going to replace these with, you could probably get them loaded with bushings and stuff in them. And I'm just going to replace them all. They're pretty beat up and from hitting the ground, I guess. They're just pretty crusty overall. So get rid of that, get new ones. And I'm going to somehow or another either tip the car on its side or get a rotisserie. And I'll go under here and clean all this up and finish the welding on the bottom side of the chassis. Got all that ground down and ready for paint. That'll include all this under here as well. So you can still see some bare body work there. And the back side of that panel's not been done. No paint at all has been put on that. So looking good though. Just be back down on the wheels today. So we'll see how much more progress we can make. I had to get new rails, so those came in and we assembled those. I had to shorten my crossover tube here, which is nothing more than just undoing what the factory did and cutting this line. So now that I've got that, I've got to get a new fitting here, which is a 3/8 90. I've got a 5/16 on it now, which is not going to work. So got to get that in place. Fuel line will be done. It'll fit nicely. Then we got to run, trying to figure out radiator hose arrangements and just little nitpicky stuff. So, but we're cruising right along. I think the next thing I'm going to do is pull the exhaust back off, finish welding up the collector at the top here. And then we'll refit the mufflers and get them welded in place and aligned and get some tips cut. And just keep making little bits and pieces here, get it taken care of, knocked out. And hopefully I'll have it being able to run on its own. If I can get a dummy pulley made up for the air conditioning setup here, I can try to find a belt that'll fit and at least turn the water pump just so I can not have to worry about it overheating when I pull it on and off the trailer. That's just kind of what I'm kind of planning on right now. Just a temporary mod. So do need to find one of those, and that's kind of what I'm going to start working on next, and we'll figure something out. But other than that, like I said, we're cruising along. We're getting little bits and pieces knocked out. I got a pretty good idea of what I want to do here. We kind of got a rough idea of the belt length that I want. And I'm just going to put my wrench down there. So I'm going to make this bracket here, kick it up a little bit. I got to make a little flap to go up here and weld to it. And that'll give me the position of the pulley. And hoping, I've got an idea off the interweb about the length of the pulley, or the diameter of the pulley off of the SB7 pump, which is what I want to use. It's between 4.5, 5 inches. So I just went with a 4 3/4, and hopefully my tensioner will take up the slack that I need there. So I'm going to position this in the uppermost corner, if you will, of the diameter of the pulley, and that will hopefully allow me to run the same belt when I buy a pump, and that'll keep me from having to buy another belt. So that's what I'm hoping. It is a long shot, but you know, sometimes you got to take a chance. So I'm gonna make a bracket here. It's about, I think we measured about 4 inches, and see what we come up with. So let's get to cutting. All right, so I went by auto parts store here and got a couple of supplies. I got a radiator hoses. I'm gonna end up having to cut them up, but you know, all you do is go in there and ask, hey, I want to go look at radiator hoses, and they don't care. They'll go back. So I gotta orient that. It's perfect as far as the angles go, but the orientation's wrong. So go figure, you got to cut it up. This one I just needed the 90 and a little bit of length. Hopefully I'm only going to need that much, and I'll have 2 lower radiator hoses, one for the part stash. But got a belt, and I'm hoping that it'll work. So we're going to get some work on this today at some point, and get my belt on, make sure that fits. And I also got my oil pan off, my transmission, the transmission pan off. I never really paid much attention to it. This came out of the scrapyard, and at that particular scrapyard, they'll punch a hole in the transmission and insert a plug in it once they drain all the oil out of it instead of taking the pan off. So you have a big hole there, and I didn't realize that until yesterday. I totally forgot about it. I knew they did it, but I just forgot. So I hammered it flat yesterday, and I'm going to come in here today and weld this hole up so it won't leak. And I went ahead and smashed down the pan a little bit. I got to put the magnet back in it. It was pretty clean. You know, it had your typical wear on it, but for a junkyard transmission, yeah, it was pretty clean in my opinion. I've seen way worse. So the transmission was bone dry, and the transfer case is bone dry. So good thing I checked all that. That's the last thing you want to do is crank everything up and not check your fluids. So we'll get this sorted out, and we'll get all this mess sorted out. And got my idler pulley kind of crudely made up. It's crude, but it's going to be plenty stout, and that'll drive my accessories, and hopefully be able to get this to run a little bit longer. I'm not going to drive it down the road, but I just wanted to be able to move it around and not overheat, not worry about that, and also test some systems too. So still got to get the lower inlet welded onto the radiator down there, but you know, we're getting there. I want to also mount the transmission dipstick. It's not mounted to anything. I don't necessarily want it there. You know, I didn't do all this work to make that firewall clean and smooth and attach this stupid thing up there. Unfortunately, it is a little long. So I'm wondering if maybe even cutting this a little bit and just mounting it down there would be a better option. I just thought about that actually. It may be a better choice, and then just shorten the dipstick if I can do that. I think there's a set screw on it right there, so I can do a custom length tube, and a custom length dipstick. The oil pump, or the oil pickup tube, not the pickup, but the dipstick is down there. Now it's not going to cooperate. Here, which is a little, it's going to be cooking right there between those headers. So I may end up bringing it below the header and forward right through here. Once I get this here AC pump in place, this will be open, pretty much accessible. So I may mount that below the header, and just to just to keep it clean. I don't know how I'm gonna do that cleanly right there. I might can make a new bracket and attach it to that header bolt. That would probably be fine. It's gonna get a little warm, but I don't know if it'll cook it. We'll have to check that and see. But I want to mess with the transmission dipstick first. We'll get it installed in the transmission securely, make sure it fits good. It does fit good. I just want to make sure it's in place and try to see about shortening that. I kind of like the idea of putting it down there. I was thinking about mounting it like that, but I'm going to have those valve covers there, so you'll still see this kind of hanging out in the wind, and I don't necessarily want to see it like that. So I'll probably just do it down there and be done with it. It'll disappear. Trying to get the front end assembled as well at some point this week, and get a little mount made up for the blinkers. I think I'm just going to run them actually behind the grill material. At first I was going to mount them flush, fill in one of the little, I was going to fill in one of these little spots here flat and recess it into that. But I think putting it behind it may be a better option. I'm not sure yet, 100%. Still haven't made up my mind on that. Got some little lights for the dash, a little turn signal light, blink high beam light. So we'll be putting those in as well and getting those wired up. I decided to put them down there below, and it'll be nice and clean. Brake boosters in, brake master cylinder, is in. I got to put that in, and I got back brakes, and we got to fix the gas tank leak. Other than that, really coming along. So other than that, I got a full plate of stuff to do, but it's little nitpicking stuff. The brake calipers are fine. Another junkyard item. If you keep it OEM, and that was the idea, keep it OEM, get it running, driving, and then slowly upgrade those parts, as I go. And instead of spending all my money on high-end parts, I'll just spend it on OEM parts and get it running, and then we'll upgrade it. So we'll cross that bridge later. I'm not 100% worried about it right now. So all in all, we got a lot to do. So I'm going to quit yapping and we'll get to it. Also, if you noticed, I got the exhaust out. I was just finishing up some of the welds that I didn't like, ground them smooth, and I'm going to Cerakote that eventually. I'm just going to stick it back in right now, and I've got to get the tailpipes finished up. And I'm going to go ahead and cut some tips for the mufflers to fit the valance that I made. I'll probably do a little curved tip and follow the lines of the lower panel there. I was thinking about coming out straight out, but I think I'm just going to cut them and follow the line of the lower panel there. So, yeah, like I said, let's get to it. All right, so I'm working on my little transmission level dipstick here, and it's just some generic thing you can find off Amazon. I'm going to cut it short, and so it'll land down in here and not be stuck way up here where it's kind of an eyesore in my opinion. And I looked at, it's just a braided hose, and it looks just kind of like a AN style hose, tubing and all that. And it's got a little set screw right here. So I can take the handle off, and I should be able to shorten that tube and then effectively shorten the dipstick. So that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm okay with the bracket. The bolts will be down below, and I'll put some little Allen heads on it and be nice and hidden. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's get this on the workbench, and oh, look at that, we're here. And we'll get this cut down and see what we can come up with, and try not to destroy it, because I'd like to keep it. First things first, I think we'll just take it apart and let's see what we're dealing with. I'm trying not to beat it up too bad. This anodized aluminum is, it does not like steel, regular old steel tools. It just gets marred up pretty quick. Yep, just like I was thinking, this is just a AN hose, so I can cut it and move my fitting down here and then reinstall it on this, and that'll flare it out. So we'll keep that, put that over there for now. How about that? And it does, and didn't quite go up into the fitting there. All right, we'll slide this down. I don't know if that's a collar or looks like just the inside of the tubing. So I'm gonna take my my mark I got here and just slice it off. Simple as that. I'll probably have to go back over and repaint it just because I'm picky, but also want it to look good. All right, so I got the tube cut. Shove that dude down in there. Take a little persuasion. Make sure you take that steel braid and jam it into your thumb too. It hurts. Stings a bit. It's going. I would like to bring that up a little bit more. Probably take a heat gun to it and just do a little more persuading. Ooh, smells stinky. Oh yeah, look at that. Ouch. Ouch. That's hot. Imagine that. That was pretty straightforward and pretty simple. So shortened it, eyeballed about 4 inches off of it. And so now my dipstick will slide down in there. So let's stick it in the car. Let's see where it landed. And I don't know if you can see that or not. We'll stick it right down in there. Kind of hug up. It should just clear. It's a little snug to the exhaust, so I may move it over a little bit. But it'll be kind of like right there behind. I think it'll be fine. It'll just be hidden in black. It's kind of disappears. And yeah, I think that'll be good. I apologize if the audio is terrible. I have misplaced my microphone. So I may end up having to order a new one. So I'm gonna try to be mindful and talk louder. But until then, just bear with me. Well, that's mounted. Pretty happy with that. That's clean. Looks good. Let's see. I don't know if you get a close-up of it. That's pretty good, I think. Right down in there, a little transmission dipstick action. And let's try to do the engine oil dipstick here. Let's try to see if we can come up with it. All right, so I modified my little bracket here. I cut the bottom of it off, maybe about 1/4 of an inch, and re-drilled the hole. Put a little jog in it, and hopefully that'll push it away from the header enough and not cook it. I'm not too sure about this tubing on the inside of this braided stuff. Not too sure how nice it's going to be treated with the heat. I also noticed my O-ring came off, so that's probably in the bottom of my oil pan, which is awesome. So I'm gonna put another O-ring on that real quick and get this installed. All right, I was fighting with it a little bit, but you know, any which way I put it, you wouldn't be able to see me tighten that up anyway. But like I said, I showed you my bracket that I cut up and modified, and I bolted it in using the header bolt there. And that may be something I need to reevaluate. There's a threaded hole up above on the cylinder head there. I may try to use that one instead, but for now that will hold and work, and just have to kind of shimmy it around the plug there and it'll work just fine. My biggest thing is hidden, and also notice something now that the valve cover is going to push out a little bit, so it actually may touch and rattle. So there may be some more tweaks there, but for now, like I said, it's just fine for what I want. So, and I've also got I had to order a new fuel fitting. My 90 here was a 5/16, and I needed a 3/8 for the feed. I'm going to switch that out before I forget. That'll go along with the new rail that we installed. I ended up actually cutting this tube here as well as a AN line, just like I did on the fill tube there. Same thing, but it's, you know, it's a real deal AN line, so I had to shorten that. That thing swooped up and curved way up over, and it actually would have probably hit the hood had I not done that. But I think what it's designed for is to go back and swoop down. But I don't have any room back there. It'll rattle against firewall and rub a hole and paint and all that good stuff. So it's tight. So we're just gonna move that. We moved it forward and it's fine. We modified it. All right, I got my exhaust pipe up here on the table, and we're gonna start cutting and fitting the exhaust tips. So I said before I wanted to make the tip flow with the back of the car and curve the pan to follow the curve of the roll pan. So this is where it crosses over and over the axle, and the tailpipe comes out. Mufflers are in the very back of the car, so that I don't have droning and noisiness in the cabin there as much as I can. These are pretty loud mufflers and they're pretty straight through, so I may end up changing them down the road, but for now they're going to work just fine. So we're going to get this tip cut. I've already got it mocked up, and I put it in the car and traced this out. So I'm going to cut it and see how I like it in the car. I'll mock it all back up once I get it cut and show you guys what I'm looking at here. All right, so I'm really liking that tip action there. Flows with the car, and from the side here, flows pretty good. So I cut just along the edge of the panel here, the rear valance that I built, and stopped this line here along with the line on the bottom of the car, because I really didn't have anything to go with. And if I kept going out to here, I think that would look, I don't know, I may try that with the other one just to see what it looks like, but I kind of like this right here. It looks pretty cool. It's different. So it lines up really good. I may need to do on this back one here, it's all rubber isolated, traditional exhaust hangers. So what I may do up in here is make one of those high temperature bushings that they have, and you can make a little bracket to go up in there. And I may do that just to help keep this where I want it, right there. Perfect, perfect all the way around the gap here. Keep it off the paint. I think it needs a little bit more of a gap like that. And I think that would look a lot better and keep it clean. Once I do body work and paint and all that, it's gonna get a little bit thicker, but I think, plus that'll match some of my other body gaps. You wanna make them all consistent. So pretty happy with that. We'll get another one made, and we'll move on to getting on the gas tank. I need to fix some of the leaks in it, and it's aired out for about a week now, so I feel pretty safe about welding on it. And got a lot of things buttoned up, so we're doing good. And I'm really liking how those flow. They're hidden down pretty good, so car will be pretty low, so it doesn't really, it's not something that's gonna slap you in the face. So I like it. It's nice and clean, and from the rear it looks pretty dope. So got my little license plate lights up in there. You gotta have that for Johnny Law. He doesn't like when you can't see your tag. Other than that though, moving along really nicely. All right, so I went ahead, working on the dash here, obviously got my little lights that I'm gonna install, turn signal lights. And I think I'm gonna move this, my high beam lights to the center. And I've got one that's got it's a P, and it's for a parking brake, but I'm gonna assume it's for power and use it as my check engine light. Now I know I can find check engine lights in this same setup, but for some reason or another, when I was looking, they had a pack that had the little arrows, but they only had one arrow. So I wanted one for left and right. So I got 2 arrows, and I'm gonna use this and say it's P for power and check engine light. So when I turn the car on, it'll illuminate and do a little self-check, which is what it does from the factory. And if nothing is wrong, it'll go out. And if it's something wrong, it'll stay illuminated. So pretty simple. It's what I want to do. It is what it is. Hopefully it'll never illuminate, right? So I think what I want to do though is put the turn signals out on the edge, and I'll drill these other 3 holes bigger, and we'll install these lights. Pretty simple, nothing to it. And then I'll interface the wiring from the steering column that goes to the blinkers setup. Let me get this drilled out, and got a little O-ring on the back, so it kind of helps snug it up. And kind of wish I could have found them in silver, but You know, I really kind of wanted them to disappear, and I wanted them smaller, but these were the only kind I could find in this style, in this size. I think it's like 12 millimeters, what it advertised it as. So still pretty small, and it kind of disappears, so nothing to it. So let's get them drilled out and get them installed. We'll see if we can get them to work. I also got the turn signal indicator and the high beams and the check engine light installed there. I did realize that my steering wheel is not fitting too well. It's only catching about the top, just where it's shiny right there past my finger. So I'm gonna have to do some changes to my steering wheel setup. I've got another steering wheel in the shed, and I may just take the center piece out of it and adapt it to that steering wheel, because I like that. It's like an old super sport style GM steering wheel, which I like that steering wheel. So I'm gonna try to keep it, but these are functioning. I do have my high beam light hooked up backwards, so when my high beams are off, my light's on, so I just gotta flip that. Other than that, that's just little minor stuff. Got the brake booster in, master cylinder in. Unfortunately, the cap hits my windshield wiper arm, so I've got to change this reservoir back to the old style that I've got, and that's sitting right there. So I've got to swap that out. It's a little shorter. This aftermarket one from China is not the factory one, and it's a little tall, so it is what it is. Not a big deal. Just swap it out, and got a little set pin that pushes in there and holds it in place. So easy peasy. I just got to pull it all back out, and that's the part that's a pain in the butt. My crossover tube for my heater hose, I got to get the fittings in for that, and we'll be able to cross that over and cross that off the list. So we are making some headway. We're getting there. Hey everybody, thanks for watching Big Lake Hot Rods. Make sure you like and share and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time.